Hello everyone, I'm Isaac and I'm gonna do this quick introduction to some of the basic functions in PSPP. PSPP is an open source recreation of IBM's SPSS. I'm pretty sure there are other guides out there, but I'm going to be customizing and focusing this on some things that are done at an undergrad for some common undergraduate level analyses. Okay. So the first thing you want to do when you open PSPP is to, well, open the files because you're going to get this and it's going to be blank. So what you want to do is click File and go to Open. Don't use import data unless you have data in CSV format. But chances are, if you're using this at an undergraduate level, you already have a data set that somebody else has gathered. In this case, I'm going to be using the American General Social Survey, the 2018 edition, just to demonstrate what these steps look like. But basically go to File, you click Open. By default, this should be empty, or rather it should show you one of your folders. Go and look for where you saved it, and then after that, it'll try to remember that you've opened this before. For me, I saved it on my desktop, so it's easy to access. I just click Desktop, this shows up. I click this here, and you click Open. You can double click on it, or you can click Open, and it should open up. So one of the first basic functions that you might want to use is called jump to variable. Here, there's a lot of variables and these things, variable names. So some terminology to get clear with. When it says variable name, this is a string, a text string that the software reads. The software knows these strings. It knows A, B, and Y. It knows A, B defect. It does not know the variable label. Or rather, it knows, but it doesn't pay attention to it. Okay. This variable label is a shorthand for you to read and see what's going on. So here, this label says abortion a woman wants for any reason. A small thing I want to flag here with these variable labels is very often because they are shorthand, they don't explain to you at all what the question is. I recommend going to the website of the data where you got your data set from, find the documentation, and read how they ask these questions. That is very important. But with that in mind, if you want to just jump to the variable, this arrow going to an X, you can click this, jump to variable, a window should pop up. A common thing with every PSPP pop-up, two common things. One, this pop-up may sometimes appear behind the existing window. If that happens, like go to your taskbar, find it there, and click it. The other option is to take the main window and wiggle it around until you see it. Now in this case, the output window showed up behind it, so just wiggle it around until you get it. So, with that covered, back to jump to variable. Jump to variable, you click this shows up. This window is here now. With this window here, you want to right click, unselect prefer variable labels, because this way it makes it much easier to search. If you're on a Mac, it's a 2-finger click. You do that, unselect prefer variable labels, and now you click any of these, it will show you some of the things that some of the information about the variable, and that's a useful start. The next interesting feature about PSPP is if you're looking for any variable in here, you can type. So if this selected, let's say I'm looking for the variable called sex, S-E-X, and I'm looking for that because it's the gender variable here. So I can type S-E-X, and you can see this bar show up, right? Now I'm at the variable, and it shows me. So respondents sex, option 1 male, option 2 female. If I want to see where this is in the data itself so I can modify some things, I can click go to, and it will bring me to it. I just gotta scroll down, and it is there. So now it has found me the variable of sex. There are a few features you can do here, and I will talk about them shortly. So if you're trying to look at univariate statistics, if you're trying to process just one variable, a single variable, what you do is you go to Analyze, Descriptive Stats, Frequencies. You click Frequencies, a window should pop up. From here, same thing. You want to unselect Prefer Variable Labels, and you can search for whatever it is. So let's say I'm looking for the gender breakdown, right? So sex, it's here. Can put it in here. And here you have options to choose the central tendencies. So you've got mean, you've got mode, you've got median. So you select the ones that you need or want. There's other options here that you can mess around with, your call there. You can click charts. And in this charts menu, you can choose if you want to generate histograms, bar charts, or pie charts, depending on what's appropriate for your presentation. I recommend that you always select percentages and that you usually select bar charts in PSPP. My recommendation of bar charts in PSP is because the pie charts don't show your percentages anyway. I don't know if there's a graphical glitch or something that'll get fixed or it's just something they wrote off. But yeah, typically you want bar charts and percentages so you can see your proportions. That's how most stat stuff works. If you click continue, you click OK, it should show up. Mine popped up behind. And here, I'm just outputting the pie chart so you can take a look at it, right? This pie chart doesn't show me the ratios. It just shows me the shape. And you have a rough idea, but you don't know anything about the percentage. But on the bar chart, you have a rough idea about the percentage as well. Roughly 55, roughly 45, right? So that's univariate statistics. So what happens if you have two variables? You want to run two variables. One of the basic things you can do for this is a crosstab. Crosstabs are used when you have categorical data and other categorical data. You can go and search what this means online if you want. But if you want to do a crosstab, you're going to analyze descriptive stats, crosstabs. This should show up. Same thing, unselect preferred variable labels. Here I'm just going to demonstrate by generating a crosstab for gender, so sex. I'm going to put it in here. And this variable called FEFAM, just to give you an idea about how this looks like. With this in mind, you can click cells and you can select your displays here, where this is count, so raw count. Row, column, total are percentage displays. Unselect the ones that are unnecessary for you. In PSPP, I highly recommend unselecting total because the total gets superfluous, it gets very cluttered in this display. So basically just have the row, column, depending on where you put your IV, and yeah, and your count. Click continue. You can click statistics to get to see the other tests that are available. Chi-square selected, that's good because that's what we want for crosstabs. And format, if you want to mess around with these, you don't need to. By default, the crosstab shows up like you would expect crosstab to. You click continue, click OK, this should show up. And this is your crosstab. Okay, and so what happens if you have more than two variables? Let's say you want to bring a third variable in, split your data set by this, right? What you can do is you go to data, split file. This is how you do multivariate in PSPP. While it's an open source recreation of SPSS, SPSS's third variables, if you want to bring a third variable into your analysis, it shows up in the crosstabs box. Here it is split file. So you go to split file, select organize output by groups. Same thing, look for whatever you want to split your file by. Let's say I'm just splitting by gender. I'm going to put gender in here. Click OK. You should get a confirmation pop-up that tells you that all the files are now split by gender. This means that if I run any variable, whether it's univariate, so if I go back to univariate and I generate yeah, let's not run gender here. Let's run like views on FEFAM. Okay. If I just do this, the crosstab will it'll now give me two tables. Sorry, it's not a crosstab. It'll give me one table for men. So amongst men, this is the univariate output. Amongst women, this is the univariate output. And it'll do that for crosstabs as well. So it'll give you two crosstabs depending on what you split it by, or even more than two crosstabs depending on how many options your third variable has. And so the last main feature to be aware of is recoding. Sometimes you have a variable that does not work for your analysis. Maybe I have an age variable, but I don't care about the entire age range from 18 all the way to 89 plus. Maybe I want to look at a category of youth, so maybe 18 to 22 or whatever. A category of like young adults, I don't know, 23 to 35 or whatever. Like I'm just throwing out numbers here. But let's say you want to split this up into certain categories, right? You can do this thing called recoding. To recode, you go to transform, recode into different. I highly recommend that you always recode into different because if you recode the same, you'll modify the base data set. And once that's modified, you cannot really unmodify it. You have to download it again and or re-import it. So here, recode into different. The window should show up. So let's say I'm doing age. I know the variable is age. I'm searching for it. It's in here. From here, you bring it over. You select it. You give it a name. A naming practice I like is to make sure it's clear recode, right? Recode underscore age. Like, but yeah, use whatever conventions you have that work for you. So yeah, I'm just gonna slap some things together just to show you how the steps work. Give it a variable name, give it a variable label. These two are important. Once you've done that, click change. If you don't click change, this thing will not update to new and it will not recode anything. Once you've done that, click old and new values. This window should show up. In this window, now you can use values, the raw numbers. So let's say I want to take 18 and put it in my new category of 1. I want to take 19, put it in my new category of 1, so on and so forth, right? I could do this, or, and here I'm using the remove button, or I could use the range. I could do 18 through 22 into my category of 1, and it'll show up here. And then 23 to like, I don't know, 50, and 51 to 80. Because 89 is the highest one in this data set. All of this is off memory. You need to work with what your data set has. Verify what the options are before you do these steps. These are just technical steps. So with all of this in here, you can click continue, click OK. The output should tell you what you recoded into. Some important things to do after you've recoded any variable in any stats program is to clean up. You need to make sure that 1, there are no errors introduced by a recode. 2, everything in here is labeled in ways that make sense to you and that work with what you're trying to analyze. So the first and most basic error check I like to do is to run my original variable alongside the recoded variable as univariates. So I go analyze descriptive stats frequencies. I take the original one, so age, the original age, and recode the age, right? And just run them side by side. Here are some of the common things to look at, like good practices. Make sure the valid and missing are the same. If they're the same, at least you didn't introduce new values or you didn't delete values by accident. And well, after that, if you want to be more precise, you can go and manually sum it up and make sure that the boxes work the same way that you intend them to work. The next bit for recoding cleanup is to give the new categories names. How might you do that? Now you can go back to jump to variable. Use jump to variable to find your new one. So in this case, recode age, right? Jump to, go to, scroll down, find this. My label is still here. I can change the number of decimals that are presented. I don't need 2 decimal places because these are just categories now. They're not scale. The label, I'm satisfied with this, but if I change my mind, I can change this later. So this is what you can do with the labels. And you can change the value labels as well. So category 1, maybe I want to call this young. Category 2, category 3, whatever I want to call them. So you just slap these names on, you click OK. If you generate the thing again, it should now have these category labels. So if I'm running recode age, I'm just going to not generate the charts. And yeah, so it's still running a split file, by the way, and that's why it's giving me this. But yeah, you can now see the labels. So it says youngest, middle age, oldest, so on and so forth. You can change these labels at any time. And you can also introduce missing values if you want to with this bar. And that is it for an overview of PSPP. I hope these general steps are useful starts for anyone trying to get into statistical analysis. And I will provide links to the PSPP downloaders in the comments section. Not the comments, the summary below. So thank you very much, and I hope this helps. See you around.